Why do we have to meet weekly for a whole year? Every single week for a year? Why is it so long? Why every week? Look, if this was just about you getting some result in your life, I would want to do it faster. If and I'd want to have weeks where we weren't in conversation because I'd want you to have some space to go and do that work to get that thing, and I'd want you to get the result faster because that means I'm delivering more of impact and more value. Um, but that's not the only reason we're here. In fact, it's not the primary reason a person joins Creator's Journey. The primary reason a person steps into Creator's Journey is because they are ready for an evolution of their way of being, their way of seeing themselves in the world that will change their life forever. That is not hyperbole. I mean it. I just had a gentleman here visiting at the farm here in Maui that was a client from years ago who did one of my Creator Circles, and they were sharing with me about how that program changed him. How about how driving in traffic one day, something just finally clicked and he was just overcome with tears about how it has changed the way that he lives his life and the growth he's had in his business. And that was after the program, not during it. So this is not about getting you some particular material outcome, and that's the only thing. Lots of that stuff happens and will happen, but that's the context for the personal evolution that occurs that changes the whole trajectory of your life, right? And so that's the reason why I want to meet with you every week for a year. So how do I put those two things together? Well, it's because that personal evolution takes time, and it takes frequency. It takes being consistently immersed in the conversation that takes this perspective and makes it alive in you, that habituates this way of seeing, that makes it obvious that this way is a way of being that you can have in the world. I have a client right now who if I've recommended to read the Tao Te Ching because she has a really hard time distinguishing this idea we call both and, which is very much an Eastern way of seeing. It's in the Tao, and it's the concept of paradox, having something that seems like two contradictory ideas and holding them in the same place as both true at the same time, and experiencing that as true, not just intellectually trying to make sense of it, but just be like, yeah, I can see how both those things that other people believe couldn't be true at the same time are absolutely both true at the same time. And that's easy for me in my body, in my mind. I can make sense of that. I can take action based on that simultaneous truth. And I share this right now because the reason I gave that to her is because where she's at right now, that was me. Like I was a hardcore that's either this or it's that. And both can't be at the same time because that's not how truth works. And I remember being with a friend of mine who could see differently, who could see both at the same time and feel it is true and know it is true, and talking with him and be like, "No, my brain hurt. It just didn't make any sense." And it took time for me to be immersed in those ideas regularly over a period of time, a year or years, for that to start to become something that I could not only make sense of, but then start to really get and look out at the world and see things where people are fighting over contradictions. And I'm like, they're both true. And it's so obvious to me now. And I'm so relaxed with it. And because I can see that transcendent possibility, I can take actions that I didn't have the choice to take before, which gives me the ability to create impacts I couldn't create before, which means I can move faster, I can make more of a difference, I can create more outcomes, better relationships, more money. All of these things come through this higher transcendent possibility. And that with the Tao is a version of an example of what happens with the creating perspective. When you start to live the idea, the story that everything that's happening is being created by me, and it starts raining and you're like, I created that, not like some narcissist person who's disconnected from reality, but choosing to have power in every situation, it gives you a whole different set of choices. And so meeting every week is important because there is a half-life to this idea when you introduce it. If I share an idea with you, which I will in our weekly calls, which I do in the course content, you're going to see something new and it's going to be like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. But then there's a half-life. Slowly you start resorting back to the way you have always seen things and you kind of lose touch with that. But then if we're meeting again the next week, it's like, boom, oh yeah, and it stays present. So the repetition of every single week, it keeps it fresh in your mind. And slowly over time, that half-life gets shorter and shorter and the idea starts to stick around more. And we also need at least a year because these are concepts that we have a lot of momentum with the way of seeing the world that you already have, that you're coming in with, the way of you thinking about yourself, the way of you judging yourself. You got a lot of habit that is around a certain identity and construct about yourself and reality. And it takes time to break that down and introduce a whole new way of being with yourself. It just takes time. Some things you can do quicker, personal evolution, it takes time. If you want to grow a tree here in Maui, some trees grow at different rates than others, but if you want to grow a mango tree from a seed, it's going to take some years before you get fruit. And it's that with other things, you can have them fast, but some things it takes time. So this isn't about the result in your life. Look, you can create like a dream home or a six-figure business, something like that. You can do that fast. I'm game for doing that fast. In fact, I love challenging people to create material outcomes in a really rapid rate because of the demand that puts on their personal evolution and the results that I get to have with them in their evolution when they commit to a really big material outcome because of how much it pulls them into a new context. But that evolution for you that had to be sustaining and to be cross-contextual such that it bleeds into other areas of your life. And now that's the way you're doing interpersonal relationship. It's doing your intimate relationship. It's the way that you're doing relationship to health and fitness. It's the way that you show up in your community and how it impacts everybody that you meet. In order for that to happen, we don't just want one big success in like financially in your life or something like that. We want to have successes in different areas because you are seeing this as a new way of being for you and your life, and then it's just bleeding into everything. You will have emergent outcomes in other areas of life that we don't even talk about during the creator's journey and for years after, and you will have a conscious understanding of how that occurred because of the way that you are seeing the world and the way you're making sense of yourself and reality and the way you're taking action because of that. So it's not just something that changes and you don't realize it. You'll have a very conscious, explicit understanding of it. That's why I'm blessed to receive so much gratitude for this work, because people know that the things that they're able to do in their life and the relationships they're creating and the outcomes they're producing and the quality of life they're having, they know how it's connected to how they be with this work. So that's why we're going to meet every single week for a year. We'll take Christmas and New Year's off, but other than that, 50 weeks. We're going to be together. We're going to be in conversation, and we're going to be immersed in this work, keeping it present in your life and really giving you a connection to it that has a half-life that'll extend beyond your death, your mortality. So thank you for listening. I love you. I'll see you in Creator's Journey. Bye for now.